And we hope to see you again in the coming years. And please do tell other people about this wonderful, wonderful conference that happens for everyone's benefit. I can't say enough about the friends I've made and the acquaintances, the people that are here, the people that I can really truly relate to. Just about the only people I can truly and really relate to. I would love to announce the next speaker because I've heard his presentation and I was very impressed by it. I think he does come from the heart. And as everyone knows here, probably preaching to the choir, we are all electrical human beings. All God's children and all of us with the sparkle of life that we possess and so much potential to be healthy and vibrant human beings. Denie is an internationally published author, vibrational medicine specialist. He's a teacher and a healer. And he has qualifications in 6 different healing modalities. He's written a revolutionary book, Electrical Nutrition, which speaks about how to bring out and awaken your body's natural electrical energy. Him and his wife, Shelley, had published this book, and now this is a second version of it, I believe. It's been endorsed by John Gray, author of Men Are From Mars and Women Are From Venus, as we know. And without further ado, I'd like to introduce both of them to you to speak from their hearts to your heart this morning. So here they are, Shelley and Denie Hiestand.
Good morning, it still is, isn't it? Let me see if I can detach this. Okay, anybody else still up the back that wants to come forward? No? This evening, you guys are in for a real treat if you attend Denie's workshop. He's the sort of person that basically has so much information to share. He will just keep talking and talking and talking and bringing through all this wonderful, incredible information until you get tired and want to go to sleep. He's 3 hours is like a drop in the bucket for the information that he has to share. I'll introduce myself, and I'm the co-author of the book Electrical Nutrition that was published at the end of last year by Penguin Putnam, which was very exciting. We self-published it in '98 and did a lot of touring around and promoting of the book. And at one of those expos, the New Age International Book Fair here in Denver, Penguin Putnam noticed us. And then one of their authors told them, well, this is a fantastic book, you should really look at it. So not last year, but the year before, they contacted us and said, well, would you come to New York and we can talk to you about this? And we were a little bit reticent to go with a big mainstream publisher because, are they going to change the book? Are they going to, restrict the amount of truth that we have in there? Are they going to limit what we're saying? Because basically, Electrical Nutrition says it how it is. It's a very down-to-earth, very upfront, Denie's originally a farm boy from New Zealand. He says it as it is without beating about the bush, which is great. And so we were a little bit reticent in going with Penguin Putnam, but they assured us that they would stay true to what we wanted to say. We looked at all the other books that they had published. A lot of them were on vegetarianism, on the health benefits of soy, and all those sorts of things. And then we were allocated actually a vegetarian editor as well. So it was an interesting process to go through. And because it's a very different book, it's the first energy-based book that they'd ever published, with a lot of new ideas, which we know, of course, are not necessarily new, but that they were new to them. We had to go through a whole process last year when we rewrote it of sourcing as much as we could about the immunization problem, about all the stuff that we could find all through the internet. Spent a lot of time searching the internet, which is a great resource. And then their legal department went through it with a fine-tooth comb, and that was a very arduous process. They kept coming back and saying, well, how do you know this? Can you verify this? And of course, a lot of this information that we are all bringing through it's brought through, and there's not a lot of scientific verification for it. Although with Electrical Nutrition, even in the older version, now the scientific studies now coming out that are supporting the work that Denie's been talking about for many, many years. My background, I started meditating when I was 17. I started off with transcendental meditation. And so I've been on the spiritual path consciously for the last probably 16, 17 years. And studied law because I wanted to help humanity. And I thought, well, maybe I could do that from the inside. And set up a free legal advice service in my hometown for the people of my community for 5.5 years. And then I realized that the problems that are happening out in the world, that people are manifesting in their lives, actually mostly stem from within, that things weren't working on the inside, so that's why they weren't working on the outside. Same with the world problems that we have today in America, in the world. That's a manifestation of the disharmony that's happening within us. So then I turned more to this personal growth field and started looking at, well, how to empower people to be all of what they can be, to be harmonious, to be happy, to be joyous about life, to have their bodies functioning on a high level. And then, so I started traveling. I did a 7-year pilgrimage around the world and studied in Chinese acupressure massage in Malaysia, Tai Chi, Qi Kung, and then all the different healing arts, mysticism, Tantra. In India, I was there for about 3 years. And then I also studied the different ancient cultures and how they use dance and movement and sound vibration in the healing process as well. And developed a dance meditation process which activates the different energy centers through a fun, playful workshop using music from Africa, salsa, belly dancing music from all around the world. Because sometimes the healing process can be a bit serious. People get very caught up in themselves and in the whole thing, and they get so focused and so intense and so serious. What happens is their cells get so tight because they're so incredibly intense about what they're doing, and oh, I can't eat that, oh, I can't do this, oh, but what about this that's happening in the world, and like this. And what they're doing is they're strangling themselves, they're constricting the life force out of their very cells so that no energy can flow through it. So a lot of what I bring to the seminars that we teach around the world is this importance of bringing the joy factor back into our lives, of enjoying each and every moment. Because as you heard from Planet X and all those sort of wonderful workshops, you never know really what's going to happen. That was one of the gifts of September 11th. It's like a reminder. We never know what's really going to happen. So what can we do now to make the most of our life and our experience here on Earth? I came into this world, I'm born 1966, and I'm a fire horse, for those that know astrology, which means I have a lot of energy. And actually, most of the girls born in China that year were actually aborted or killed because they knew that they would wreak too much havoc on society. Luckily, I was born in New Zealand, and I was able to had parents that encouraged that flow of energy into theatre, music, arts, sports, things like that. But so often in today's society, and I suppose a lot of you have experienced that growing up here in America, there's a lot of suppression, especially suppression of the female essence. Especially, you're not allowed to express yourself, you're not allowed to be sassy and sexy and outrageous. And so also another aspect of what I do in our seminars and around the world is encourage women to be all that they can be. We are powerful, we have an incredible powerful energy within us a lot of it is untapped. I mean, how many men here would like their woman to be more outrageous, more fun, more playful, more sexy, more... Yes? We have a couple here? Yeah? Any more? I don't think many men are going to say no to the fact that their women are, starting to have a bit of fun in life and enjoying themselves and bringing that energy home at night or whenever. So we also incorporate that into the seminars as well. It's one of the songs that I wrote when I first came here to the States and we started teaching here was a little mantra that I was walking in the forest, do a lot of communing with nature. I was walking in the forest, and just before we were about to teach a seminar, and the nature spirit said, I've got a little mantra for you that you can sing to the people that you're teaching, and maybe they can sing it to themselves. And it's, God I am, and I am free, free to be totally me. And to give ourselves permission to be free and to allow all of our essence to manifest in this physical body is a very, very wonderful gift that you can give yourselves. I know a lot of this conference has been focused on what's happening outside of ourselves, but really the essence, what it comes back to is here, and what you can do for yourself to bring your body back into harmony. The workshop this evening is going to be a very, very, very intense, full-on, wonderful workshop packed full of information geared around electronutrition. One of the reasons we moved into this, to put this into print, is Denie works all around the world as a natural health consultant. And a lot of the information that he shares in this book is what he was telling people over and over and over again in the healing sessions. Because people would be coming to him with, degeneration, back pain, diabetes, cancer, chronic fatigue syndrome, multiple sclerosis, like all sorts of hosts of disease that were stopping them from enjoying life. And pretty much most of that was self-inflicted, according to Denie. So a lot of the information in here is what you can do on a daily basis to reverse the degeneration in your body, to take back the power that you are, and to live life to its fullest. He'll give a lot of good insights on how to do that tonight in the workshop as well. When I met Denie, I was at the end of being a vegetarian for 12 years. At the same time as I started meditating, I also saw a movie that was talking about commercial chicken farming. And that just shocked me to my core. And being a pretty intelligent little thing, I thought, well, this is crazy. I'm not going to destroy my body and, So anyway, I stopped eating meat, I stopped eating chicken, I stopped everything. And for 12 years was a complete vegetarian. I did a lot of spiritual growth and searching through that time, and a lot of dance, a lot of energy work. And by the end of the 12 years, basically my body started to fall apart big time. I ended up back in Australia and got tested, and I had 6 major deficiencies: protein, amino acids, B group vitamins, the works. And then I ended up back in New Zealand, and I was teaching a dance meditation workshop, and I met Denie at a big conference, probably a much bigger conference than this, and he was teaching about energy work. And we clicked, we hit it off. It was sort of like a spark of energy, electrical energy, that sort of charged our meeting. And then I took off. I'm very much a free spirit, took off down into the mountains, was hiking up in the mountains. On the way back down, I tore all the tendons and ligaments in my knee. Basically, what had happened was, being a vegetarian, my body hadn't had enough nutrients to maintain the strength of the cells, and so my body was falling apart all over the place, which is what happens after a long period of time on a protein-free diet. And anyway, he turns up the next day to teach one of his seminars, and he recognizes me, and he says, "Oh, well, you're not going very far, are you?" He says, we just happened to be meeting at the same place again, yes, serendipitous as it is. And so he said, well, why don't you stay and share what you've been learning over the last 7 years with your study, and I'll use you as a guinea pig and show these people how this stuff really works. So instead of being on crutches for 6 weeks, he put my knee back together after 2 hours of work and had me running up the mountain again by the end of the 5 days. And I was very impressed. I thought, well, this is pretty powerful chi. And over the last 7 years, I've seen him working with many thousands of people all around the world, seemingly miraculous healings, but it's like that's not what he does. It's like one of the guys that was speaking yesterday said, he brings the body back into harmony, reconnects all the electrical circuits in the body, recharges the cells so that the body can remember what it is that it's meant to do. And sometimes we do need a bit of a boost like that from somebody outside of ourselves, because we can do as much as we can ourselves, which is what this book's all about. And we encourage everybody to read this and integrate whatever resonates with them into their lives and take back your power and your responsibility for yourself. But other times we need other people to help us along with that too. And Denie has I suppose you could call it a wonderful gift, but we also teach it in our seminars how each and every one of us has the ability to utilize that energy in our lives, not only for our own healing, but to work with others. And we teach those seminars all around the world as well. Some of the most wonderful stuff that I've seen him working with over the years is we had a wonderful letter about 1.5 to 2 years ago from a client in New Zealand a couple that had been trying to get pregnant, have a baby, tried all the traditional medical routes, and we got a wonderful letter about, it must have been, I suppose, a year later, thanking Denie for the wonderful work that he did, and that they were now proud parents of a little baby boy. And so that was beautiful. And then just recently, one of the people that he's been working with the last couple of years here in the States, who lives in Arizona, was given pretty much a death sentence. She was in her late 60s. She said, the doctor said, well, you're going to be in a wheelchair in the next 6 months because your bone density is so bad. And so she went to see Denie, and he put her on to this electrical nutrition way of eating and being, and did some electrical work on her. And 2 years later, she went back to the doctor's appointment. There was two other doctors in white coats there, including her doctor. And she was thinking, oh my God, am I going to die? Am I going to die? What are they bringing me, the death sentence here? And they sat her down. They said, what on earth have you been doing? You now have the bone density of an 18-year-old. And then when she started to say, well, electrical nutrition, Denie Hiestand, they just didn't want to hear because it wasn't the traditional normal medical approach. And that is often the case with a lot of the traditional medical system is very good for, they're wonderful mechanics and plumbers. If you have an accident, an emergency, antibiotics are good in a life-saving circumstance, but many times they're overused, and that's what destroys our natural gut bacteria. Probably everybody here, I imagine, has probably had at least one antibiotic treatment in their life, which knocks out all the gut bacteria. That means that you can't get the nutrients and digestion out of the food that you eat. So the medical profession has its place, definitely, but then there's also a need for an understanding that we can do a lot ourselves preventatively to stop this degeneration occurring. And looking around, I see everybody here in this room could benefit definitely from reading this book. And it can help you from this point on to stop the degeneration getting worse, but also it can give you some insights of what you can do to really help to clean up the system a bit quicker. Because like many years and years and years of eating food that is life-denuding, and it manifests, of course, as those extra tires around the waist and on women on the hips. And there's, I don't want to focus on that. Denie's going to go into that tonight a lot and also today a little bit. But just one thing for all us people out there, or everybody out there that's got the extra fat tires and the butt, what do they call them, donut butts? You have to thank your body and love your body for doing that. What it is it's a storehouse of all the toxins in the food that we've eaten over time. And the body has, in its intuitive understanding and knowledge, has kept it away from the internal organs. And it's stored it, okay, in the cellulite and the fat in our bodies, which is fantastic. So you need to love your body for doing that, okay? But now from this point on, or if you attend the workshop or read the book, make some conscious choices to stop putting the toxins, preservatives, and everything in the body and start to clean it up from the inside out. And then you can lovingly thank it and it'll disappear, which is sounds easy, doesn't it? Well, it is. It's pretty easy. So the other book that I'd love to recommend to people is Denie's Journey to Truth. It's a great book. It's especially for the people here. I think you guys would be really very interested in that. It talks about his life journey from being a farm boy from down under. When he was a little kid, 5 years old, he was building a hut, and this axe came and cracked open his skull. And I think that's probably one of the reasons why he's being able to bring through all this wonderful information. It seemed to have a kickstart right at the age of 5. I remember him telling me a story about when he first moved to Sedona, Arizona. He met Dr. Robert Jaffe, who teaches energy mastery, and he just looked at him and just said, oh my God, you have the most incredible direct connection of anybody that I've ever seen. And so he often blames that on the axe on his head when he was young. But anyway, the rest of the story is probably have a lot of parallels for many of you here who have had a lot of powerful energy experiences, but it has the unique ability to put it all into perspective and so that you can understand it more on a cellular level also about what's really been happening. I'd like to bring Denie up. He's going to talk a little bit about what we're going to do this tonight, but if he is probably one of the most experienced natural health practitioners, metaphysical gurus, or whatever you want to call them, in this field. He started off with pendulum work, I think years and years ago, kinesiology, machines, working with machines and understanding energy that way, like probably more than 20 years ago. And he has fine-tuned it so much that he is able to, instead of using machines and pendulums and other things, he can just tune right into people's bodies and see what's happening, and has enough energy and chi within him to be able to connect all the circuits up and get the energy flowing. And it's that ability that has enabled him to see the causes, the electrical malfunctions over time, what causes the degeneration in our system or what we can do about it. I'm very honoured to be with him. I'm a very high energy person myself, as you can tell, and he's the only person that I've met on this planet that has an energy field that is so incredibly powerful and intense. He's very grounded, but he's also very spiritual. He's very physical, he's very sexual, but he's also one of the most out there spiritual people that I've ever met, and I think he's certainly harmonized both aspects of his being, all aspects of his being in this physical dimension, and I'm very proud that to be with him. He's 53 and I'm 35, and he's hard to keep up with. I think he lives and breathes the electrical nutrition too. So without further ado.
Thank you, Shelley. My gift from God. Well, my name is Denie. A lot of people ask me where it comes from. I was born in New Zealand by Swiss-Italian parents, and I've got a French name. Two N's in Dennis is D-E-N-N-I-S, which is Dennis in English, but the one N version is Denis in French. But nobody over here says it properly, they just call it Dennis, which really grates against me. So I put the S off the N and put an E on it to make people say it properly, so it's French Denis. A lot of people think it's a female name, but it's actually male. However, you'll all probably say that I've got an accent. I don't hear it, so I have been often accused of having that Kiwi mumble, which we talk very, very fast and you don't even know, and the words all just meld together. It's called the Kiwi mumble. So I will try to slow down, and so your ears get recalibrated. Somebody's clapping over the back. Has heard me before, yes. Oh dear. Yeah, it's a long way, and I want to thank Global Wings and Carol for inviting me back here. I had a short talk to you guys, or some of you, back in the earlier conference earlier in the year. I continually travel around the world. This is probably my 500th gathering I've spoken to in the last 5 or 6 years. I've done over 360 radio stations. I've been in national television in New Zealand and Europe, some major stations here in the United States, been interviewed by Fox and CNN. Mainly because as a natural health consultant, I interface very, very much my life with the actual traditional medical field. I'm probably very, very lucky, and I feel very honored that I have been able to interface with the traditional medical field, because I try to build a bridge between the natural health industry and our so-called allopathic medicine. That happened when I first came to the United States. I ended up in Seattle, Washington, because a lady I met in New Zealand said, "You've got to come and see me when you get to the States," and I'm living in Seattle, so we sort of wandered around with our motorhome and ended up in Seattle. And she said, "Oh, I've got a whole lot of people that I want you to, work on," because that's what I did for a living at that time. And she introduced me to this lady that's got this little clinic, so we set up shop there, and 3 weeks later we're still stuck in Seattle, wall-to-wall people, about 8 to 10 a day. And one day this very fancy dressed, very upper-class German lady walked in, and we had a session with her, and she went home and told her husband and raved on about it, and 2 days later he made an appointment and come in to see me, and he was a psychiatrist in Seattle who worked in a major health clinic with 4 doctors, a heart specialist, and quite a major clinic in Bellevue. And so we did some work with him, and he got absolutely blown off his feet. And so then I got an invite to actually join that clinic. And that was a real breakthrough, because the traditional guys in that clinic they were stepping into a place that they've never ever gone before. The only thing they had there was a naturopath, and that was about the farthest into woo-woo they'd ever been. And all of a sudden they had this crazy Kiwi in their midst. It was a very, very interesting process. I remember Shelley talked about the splitting open my skull. I actually never put that in the book, Journey to Truth, deliberately, mainly because I've always been a little bit embarrassed about it, because Dr. Jeffy told me quite categorically, he said, the fact that you did split your skull open, and I actually never went to the doctor with that, because, a little boy on the farm, I knocked myself out at the time, but I didn't wake up until about 4 to 6 hours later. I think Mum said I got back to the house about 6 o'clock that night, and my head was like out here, because those days on the farm, if you didn't get home for dinner, that wasn't too much problem. If you didn't get home by dark, really nobody panicked anyhow, because often us kids were out on the farm somewhere playing and doing things. Mum always had the attitude, when your kids get hungry enough, they'll get home. And so it wouldn't have been really until late that night or the next morning before the search party would have been gone to look for us, because that was quite normal with big families on the farm. Anyhow, I got home and my head was out here, and Mum was all quite worried and that and all bloody. But I was walking, breathing, talking, and that was okay. So why go to the doctor? Had a whack on the head, you'll get over it. But nobody realised that I actually split my head and my actual skull open 4.5 inches at the time, and it's still there. It's no bone, it's only soft tissue there. So ever since then, I've had a real frustration in my life, because I could see things, I could see bodies, cells, energy fields, and I grew up in a very different reality to my brothers and sisters. And I remember one of the things that really was very difficult for me. I had a sister that was very close to me, and we used to play a lot, especially down in our huts and that. And one day I obviously did something to her that she didn't like terribly much. And so sitting around the dinner table, and I'm trying to be just this normal little farm boy, about 11, 12 years of age at the time, she blurts out that I was down in, when somebody asked where I was that day or what I was doing, I was down in my hut talking to the angels and doing things to her her head. Well, sort of, this discussion around the dinner table stops and everybody looks at me, and you go into total denial. Where's the crack to fall through? Talking to angels, boys don't do that. To have phantom friends, boys don't do that. It's almost all right for girls to have their little phantom friends, but boys, no, especially not 10-year-old farm boys. So big time shutdown, big time denial. However, it burst through me when I got to engineering. When I left the farm at 18, 19, I went into engineering. I got an adult apprenticeship after mucking around and working, driving bulldozers and cutting down trees for a few years, working in the bank and all sorts of things. I ended up in engineering, which I actually loved, and I went into metallurgy, which is really, once again, dealing with how proteins and molecules are put together, which even today I refer back to, and I thank God and I thank my guides for helping me understand that process, because it gave me an incredible grounding, and I ended up as the 4th highest qualified metallurgist in New Zealand. But during that process, I could actually just plug into a furnace and just see the metal and the temperature inside. I have this infinity with frequencies of energy that's really, I really never talked about much at all. I go into it a little bit in the book, but not really how it affected my life. So I had this two aspects of me, my wanting to be the normal boy, building the hot rods and chasing the fast girls and, driving the faster cars, or was it the faster girls and not so faster cars, I'm not sure at the time. And on the other side of me, I had this thing that kept happening to me, where I could just, almost all of a sudden a window or door would open in my consciousness, and I could see the world and people and their cells for what it was. So I put that into my work, but it built up, because the energy flow was like my kundalini would open and the energy surge would come through my body, and it was really, really frustrating to deal with. So I put it into physical things like sports and fast cars and a tremendous amount of capacity to work. And when I left engineering and went back farming and got married for the first time, I just went into gusto and farming, put all that energy into farming. Of course, this poor old physical body was being eaten fed like everybody else, and I had all this power, so I just kept putting into work and extending the days and taking more on and more on and more on, not realizing that energy really couldn't flow through these cells, and my body crashed and burned in my late 30s. Big time. I got so bad that I actually didn't function for 6 months. I laid down on the couch. At the time, I had a 500-cow farm. I had an agriculture and contracting business. I leased another farm with 3,000 sheep on it. I was growing 500 acres of crops, and I had this huge, big, multi-million-dollar infrastructure around me, and I didn't actually open an envelope or pay a bill for over 3 months at the time, and it was unbelievable. My brain went, my physical body went. I had chronic fatigue, I had plugged arteries, my digestion had shut down, and also my lungs had shut down, and doctors had me on a puffer just to survive. So I had all these degenerative diseases taking place in my body. It was a pure mental and physical breakdown, just out of pure unbelievable work. I remember the contracting season before my breakdown, the longest time I've actually run on the tractor without stopping was 3 days and 4 nights continuous. I had 5 tractors going, and each tractor had 3 drivers on 8-hour shifts, 3 8s of 24 hours during the day, and I sat on my tractor the whole time. The longest period, it would actually never turned it off. Actually, the motor, we used to fuel it up while I was idling there, and I used to just sit there having just a quick power meditate, and then as soon as it was filled up with gas, the throttle would be open, I'd be back into the field. So that's the sort of things I used to do to my body, living on no-dose tablets, oh my God. So I pushed it past its extreme. I had the energy, I had the spiritual connection, I had that energy coming through me, but the physical cells couldn't take that place for those number of years, so it basically crashed and burned. I was wanting to die. I was feeling like dying. I was angry. I was bitter. My world was collapsing around me, and I had completely lost it. A friend of mine come up to the farm, and he looks down at me, and he says, "Bloody hell," he says, "how come you got some of the healthiest cows in the world?" He said, you're the best farmer in the country. You're in the top 3% of pastoral farmers in the world, and you got cows that are over 100 years by human equivalent, still healthy, and you're lying down here dying. Oh dear. That got right through to me somewhere along the line, and I thought, damn it, he's right. And when somebody's right, it's like getting smacked over the ear with a 4x2. Oh, you say 2x4 here, so. But it hurt my pride somewhere deep down. It touched a core with me. And I said, he's right. And it's true, my oldest cow by human equivalent was 105. And she was still having a baby every year. And she had her first baby by 2 years old by human equivalent. And she had never missed. And this is not a closeted animal. She's not closeted in a barn and looked after. She's out on the fields every day and has to walk a mile back to the milking shed every day. Completely never had an assisted calving in her life. And I'd had her since she was a young cow. When we started share milking, I first bought her. 91 was her name. 91 hanging off her ear on her ear tag. And my kids still talk about 91. She's historically famous in Canterbury, New Zealand. Denise 91. It was actually written up in one of the one magazine. 105 by human equivalent, still having a baby every year. The average age of my herd was 45 by human equivalent. So that means half of them were over that, and only half of them were younger than that. Still having a baby every year and milking for 10 minutes. Think about how healthy an animal's got to be to do that. Okay? Yeah, I knew a thing or two about how nature worked. Because when we first moved onto our South Island farm, we actually bought an old run-out sheep country farm and converted it to dairy farming, and it was on a class of land that was classified as never could milk cows. And in fact, I was turned down the rural bank loan, the bank loan, to actually build the milking shed, or the milking pile as you call it over here, because they perceived that you couldn't milk cows on that land. But because I had this incredible record of what I was able to do in other parts of the country, it went right through to the top manager in the country, and then they asked the Research Institute, and I remember Dr. Arnold O'Brien from Ruakura Research Station, which is one of the world's best agriculture research station, he told me afterwards that the manager of the Rural Bank, the New Zealand chairman, rang him up, or the CEO phoned him up and says, what the hell's this guy Hiestand think he's trying to do, milk cows down there on the Canterbury Plains? And Dr. Arnold Bryant said, look, this guy would milk cows on top of Mount Cook if he decided to. So I got my loan. Mount Cook is, 16,000 feet in the air. So I got my loan, we built our cow shed, and we did the 4-minute mile of farming down there, 500 kilograms of milk fat per hectare. So these are some of the things. So I knew how nature worked. I was very good at what I did at that time. So when I crashed and burned, and I had to take that pride and eat it and say, my God, how come that this thing is not working, yet my animals are still functioning? I knew how to fix them. I knew how to correct the nutritional deficiencies. I knew how to correct the mineral deficiencies in the soil. And in 3 years, we'd taken something that wasn't able to milk cows to the top 5% in the world of pastoral farming. Oh, shit. And I had gone the other way. Big OS. So I thought about that for a while through my fog of chronic fatigue. And I said, okay, how about treat me just like I treat my animals? Put the same knowledge of nutrition, the same knowledge of how nature works into me. and see what my body would do. See if I could recover from all these degenerative diseases that I had. And so I did that. And here I stand before you today. The process was difficult, especially at the start. It was long. But one of the things that I'm going to talk about to you tonight and show you the very, very real reality of life. Now, you've all heard Planet X, you've all heard AIDS, you've all heard all the beautiful stuff and information and knowledge in this conference and many others that you attend to and all the study you do and the books you read. And all that's knowledge, and it's really wonderful. But are we not living in this environment? Are we not part of all this, what is happening? And are we or do we not live in this body? Is this body not the vehicle of experience right here, right now on earth, in a cooperation of what is happening with all this other stuff? And isn't this body that gives us that experience? Isn't this body that vehicle which our souls manifest this experience? That God has this experience through our cells? We can have all the knowledge. We can understand what is happening to the planetary shifts and the alignments and the secret governments and the energy frequencies, what they're trying to do to us to numb us. And we've all heard, nearly everything we've heard from the system out there is basically incorrect information. Well, do you know why you're so numb and so sick and why AIDS was able to really have an effect on our immune system? Yeah, us farmers know. We know how to make a cow almost limitless in life and ability to function. Very different to the rest of the world because we're the only pastoral farmers in the world. Nobody else does it our way, mainly because our environment allows us to do it that way. But when you understand that this body is the key, and didn't Jesus say the heart was the key? And didn't he say the process was enlightenment? Well, that is a Greek phrase. It says enter the light. And the Greek word light is energy in English, so it says enter the energy in English. And what happens when you enter energy into anything? The protons and neutrons start to speed up as they fly around the nucleus. Increase the vibratory rate, okay? What happens when you increase the vibratory rate? I'll tell you a very, very simple little quick thing what happens about vibratory rate. Let's take some water, which we all know, we're very familiar with water. Let's slow the vibratory rate down until it's solid. And what is that? Ice. Okay? Now get a sledgehammer and go smash onto that ice, and that ice goes into total chaos to its reality. It smashes up and gets splattered all over the place, right? Big owie for the ice. It has lost its sense of self because it's broken apart. Am I still working? Yes. But just change the frequency. Enlighten that ice. Enter the energy into that ice. Put some thermal frequency into it and get the molecules and protons and neutrons to speed up a little bit further. What does the ice become now? Water. Right? And if you think there's no difference between ice and water, go and ask the captain of the Titanic. I'm sure he will disagree with you. There's a huge difference between ice and water. And I've never seen a fish swim in ice yet. So it's changed the frequency, it's changed its reality, it's changed its interface with everything around. You get that same sledgehammer and smash the water goes out, then comes back and recombines. A little bit of chaos, but it reconfigured. It'll come back into the pond again. Oh dear. Can't damage the water frequency so much with that sledgehammer as you can with ice, right? Now then increase its vibratory rate a bit more. Supply a little bit more energy and lighten the water a bit more, and what it becomes? Humidity, steam. Can't see it, can't feel it, can't touch it. You have no sensation of the humidity in this room. And get the sledgehammer now, where is it? Humidity doesn't give a tinkers about that sledgehammer. So by changing the frequency, a given stimulation or process or interface changes dramatically, does it not? Think about that in relating to your health. If a given impact given frequency generation, a given heart frequency, a given something that the government's trying to do, a suppression of our life force, will only affect those on that frequency. The sledgehammer has the most destructive force on the ice, the density, the slow frequency. Just imagine if you did what JC was talking about, pure electrical science. Enlighten yourself. Increase your vibratory rate of these cells. What happens to the cells? They start to get less affected by any given input. You understand? All of this knowledge you're hearing is for you to embrace. Not here in your head, not just as a knowingness. Just imagine if you understood the wholeness and physicalized it, and you become the empowered God. Just like JC tried to tell us. We cannot be separated from anything in this universe. We are God's manifestation. We're not separate, we're not aliens, even though my green card initially said I was a registered alien. We evolved here in God's universe. We are part of it. We are not separate from it. The aliens are just our brothers, cousins, distant relatives, some of us maybe not quite so distant. However, we're all part of the same stuff, and we operate by the same laws. And when you change the vibratory rate of any single molecule, cell, atom, it changes its interface with everything around it. So if we are toxic, overweight, feeling the weight of what is happening in the world today, our immune suppression, AIDS, yes, it was 100%. The previous speaker was 100% right. Gosh, us agriculturists know that. I've known that for 20 years. It's no big deal. It come from the sheep virus, absolutely. We know the history of that. I'll talk a bit about that tonight, how you can fortify your body so you never have to worry about these suppression or low frequency realities. Remember, if you're an AM radio, you will hear the AM frequency transmitted, right? But if you got yourself to an F, and yet the FM radio is transmitting, but you don't, as an AM radio, you have no consciousness of that FM transmission, right? You cannot hear the tune. But if you increase your vibratory rate, all of a sudden you could hear the FM reality, couldn't you? You know, there's a cell phone frequency going through you right now. You can't hear it, but if you were tuned to that frequency, you could hear it. That's how I work with the body. I tune myself to the body's frequency. And all the information, is it not carried on the wave? The radio station doesn't transmit the song. The radio station just transmits a frequency of energy. The consciousness of that energy is the song is contained in that wave, right? In fact, it's a spiral, not a wave like that. But that's besides the point. The information is contained in the electrical impulse. Right? Otherwise, how could you get that electrical impulse into your radio, amplify it, and then you can hear the song? So it must have been contained in the impulse. And so every single thing is contained in the impulse. This is an electrical universe. That's how you heard the very first day. The DNA code is an electrical impulse process. Well, that's what my book is talking about, relating to this body. Everything is electrical. That's why we call it electrical nutrition. Now, when you understand that, when you understand how the sun, how a field of energy, planet X, coming and hitting the sun's electromagnetic energy field causes the short circuit, which causes the flares, which then has an impact on our electromagnetic field of Earth, squeeze that causes the atmospheric problems, which is part of our electromagnetic energy field. The same process as this body. The cells of this body, the atoms of this body, the molecules of this body work on exactly the same principle. We're a part of it. We're just made up of billions of little suns. The cellular interface between what you eat and your food and your life and your environment, how you become you, is exactly that thing. Exactly what that first speaker on the first day was talking about. From the earth concept, the sun's reality, that's how we work here. We are part of the same thing. We're built the same electrically. Now, taking that and wrapping it up and then understanding that from a physical point of view, how can we make this body such a high frequency that it doesn't get adversely affected with the changes. That's the key. That's enlightenment. As just as Jesus says, enter the energy. Enlightenment, enter the light. Increase your vibratory rate was the key. And he said the key to that is opening your heart, of course. And that's what we teach in our seminars around the world. And we'll kind of talk about that tonight, because I'm going to take you through the process of how food that you put in here becomes this. Because the food you eat, the way you eat it, the way you see it, doesn't ever even get into your bloodstream. So how can it become this? How can it become your life force? Go and cut yourself, prick yourself open to see food in your blood? No. 99.99999999% recurring of what you eat comes out your number twos. So how do you get nourished? Well, that's what we're going to show you tomorrow night. And when you understand that electrical interface, exactly the same what's happening to the sun now, and Earth with Planet X, and all the other electrical influences that we have on our body, is show you how you can regain your God-given right to be enlightened. And when you change your vibratory rate, when you increase the actual speed of the molecular structure of your body, degeneration, disease cannot take place. And remember, if heart frequencies or the AIDS immune destroying processes are at this frequency, if you put yourself to this frequency, that has no effect on it. You understand? If everything's an AM radio and you become FM, the AM doesn't exist to you. Do you understand the concept? And Jesus was trying to tell us this 2,000 years ago. Enlightenment, enter the light, enter the energy, increase that vibratory rate. Well, I spent 20 years trying to figure out just how to do that. And I've got 20,000 clients now. You know, I was flying to Winnipeg last week. 2 weeks' time, I'm back in Switzerland again. I work with some of the best people in the field, the head of research of Ciba-Geigy, which is now Novartis Chemical Corporation. My God, himself, his wife, and his whole family, my personal clients. He flew me to Switzerland 4 times just to work with him and look at this whole process of electrical, because they understand it. They know this is one of the world's best pharmaceutical chemists, for God's sakes. And we can sit for hours talking about electrical science, because, as he said, chemistry is only a kindergarten way of looking at the energy process. There's no such thing as a chemical reaction. Go ask Dr. Bauman, head of research of Ciba-Geigy. Everything is an electrical action. How many chemists here? Your chemical equation has got a whole lot of pluses on one side and equals in a whole lot of negatives on the other side. It's an electrical formulation. The kindergarten way of looking at that electrical formulation is called chemistry. Okay? It's a strange thing in New Zealand. Nearly 7-8 years ago, chemistry was dropped being taught at the age 12 in our schools, because they talk about the electrical information change, not chemistry. That was a way of fooling you. Now then, you've probably, all of you people here, accepted that you've had disinformation about the government, about the wars, about AIDS, about everything. Why do you think the information about food has been correct? Look at this for one little thing. Just get your head around this. Please, please drink this in. In the last 15 years, you have had the most fat-free diet of any group of people in the Western world, in the OECD countries. And I know my science. You can't trip me up on this stuff. Yet, in the last 15 years, you've had the biggest increase in obesity ever in human history. Haven't you figured out yet that it couldn't have been the fat that was making you fat? Duh! Now, there's enough farmers out here to know, for goodness sakes. How do you fatten up the hog on the farm? You feed it grain. How do you fatten up the hog on the heifer on the farm? You feed it grain. How do you fatten up this animal body? Feed it grain. You're the highest grain eaters ever in human history. And boy, oh boy, when you finish tonight, you will understand why your bodies don't work. Not only will you understand why your bodies don't work, I will give you the information that if you act upon it, and remember what I said first, you have to physicalize the knowledge before it does anything to you. Knowledge is useless. And you think, God, Kiwi, you're going really nuts now. How can knowledge be useless? I'll tell you how knowledge is useless. I call it my push bike theory. You know, bicycle theory. Oh, Clay and I used to live together. This is a bit of a lie, but it's a good story. And we were growing up together. We were both promised a bicycle on our, 9th birthday. But Clay was a month older than me. And being a miserable little sod, when he got his bicycle, he would never let me ride it. So I had to sit out there on the sidewalk every night and watch him learn to ride that bicycle. After a month, I had all the knowledge. I knew exactly what to do on that bicycle. Pedal, steering, the balance. I knew it all. Finally, my birthday came around a month later. There was my new push bike out on the porch, and I jumped on my new push bike. What happened to me? Whang, flat on my ear. The knowledge was useless. You had to physicalize the knowledge. It's called being educated. Because you have to do things, bring conscious awareness to at times, repetition to learn anything. Even to learn to pick your nose. Bring conscious awareness to at times, repetition. That's the definition of learning. Okay? And you have to do that over and over again. So you all go to these conferences, you all get knowledge, but how many of you truly, truly, truly physicalize that knowledge into wisdom, into reality? Into improving you, into making you bomb-proof, into making you to the God-enlightened being that you can transfer and evolve through that enlightenment process to the earth changes and everything else that is happening. If you want to survive that, you had better make yourself the frequency changes that is coming. If we're moving into an FM reality from an AM reality, you better make sure that these cells can vibrate at FM. Otherwise, if the frequency does change, if the shifts do happen, if the stuff, electromagnetic field does change, and you're at this old stuck third dimensional frequency, you fry. If you'd like, through this process of time of enlightenment, through this time of incredible change, the age of Aquarius, if you like, our soul is like a 100 amp current waiting for us. But these bodies are a 10 amp fuse. And the changes that are taking place are going to force that 100 amp current to be manifest within us. Many are called, few are chosen. We're all given this information if those prepared to listen, but very few choose to do anything with it. That's what JC was trying to tell us. Wake up. The key to this entire process, everything you've heard on this entire conference, the key is your heart, your soul, and your vibratory rate of these cells. It's not about getting out of this body. It is about taking this body with you to the next dimension. It is about increasing its vibratory rate. It's called ascension. How can you pour a 100 amp current through a 10 amp fuse without that fuse going pop? Well, tonight, and what we do around the world, we show people. No, don't show you. We give you an essence of reality, how to make this body into that 100 amp fuse. So when that kundalini opens and that soul manifests into your body, your body cells, every single cell is capable of taking that 100 amp current. In our schools, we have everybody from Catholic nuns to Buddhist priests doing it. I remember one Catholic nun from a convent in Canada. She come to me and for a healing session, she broke down, she cried. She said, Denie, she said, I'm really, really way out on the limb here. She said, I'm way, way out. She said, I have spent 30 years in a convent, or 30-something years in a convent. She said, I went in a convent to find my God. I looked at her and I said, it doesn't look like you found it. And she just cried and cried and cried. And she said, no, I haven't. She said, can you help me find my God? And I said, yeah, but it's probably not where you think you're going to be looking for. She said, I read your book, Journey to Truth. She said, you found God. And I said, if you want to put that connotation on it, yeah. She said, I want to find my God. That's just fine. She come to our first module, had a real mental difficulty with the concepts. Boy, from being in a convent for 30 years and coming to do our stuff, that was a stretch. Whew. But it touched her deep enough, she come back and did it again. Like a lot of people, nearly 60% of all our modules come back and do the first one again, because it's such an unbelievable process. And she come back into it the second time. Much, much more comfortable within herself. Then she come into our second module, which is really, really the master. She's called very, very advanced esoteric knowledge from ancient times, coupled with electrical science. We put it all together. And she broke through. She opened her heart for the first time in her life. At the end of the second module, we have a little process, and this beautiful lady, this beautiful nun, dressed up in a wedding gown. She got somebody's wedding gown. And she come out in front of the group. And she said, for the first time in my life, I'm alive and I've met my God. And he wasn't out there. He was right in here. Because I opened my soul to that conduit of energy, and the energy contained the information, the matrix of God, of course. We are a part of that creative force. We're not separated from it. Is not your sons and daughter a creation of you, the same stuff? They have their individualism, but they are created in that same form. This universe is an electrical field of interfacing impulses of energy. None of us can escape that scientific fact. If you want to go through the changes, if you want to be alive, if you want to be healthy, if you want to be all that you can be, Jesus gave us the one rule. He said, judge ye not. Every time you say no to life, to some aspect of life, you're saying no. You're judging. You're putting a limitation or restriction on your electromagnetic energy flow. Every time you say shouldn't, can't, won't, you're judging. Every time you're saying that person shouldn't dress like that, that person shouldn't do that, that person shouldn't do that, you're judging. How many judgments do you do a day? And JC said, judge ye not. You're the most judgmental group of people ever in the human history. No wonder why in the United States, right here, right now, and I can say this now because I'm a United States citizen. This is my country of choice. I didn't just get an accident by birth here. So I can be justifiably critical of it because I see it from a whole lot of different points of view. You're the most toxic race. You're the most degenerative, diseased race ever to walk the face of the earth right now. You're the most obese race ever to walk the face of the earth. You have higher level of degenerative diseases ever. You do not catch cancer. You do not catch heart disease. You do not catch adult onset diabetes. You do not catch arthritis. You do not catch MS. You do not catch chronic fatigue syndrome. Do I need to go on? They are self-inflicted degenerative toxic processes. If we look at the graphs, by the year 2006, 2008, 4 out of 4 North Americans in the United States of America will be dying of a degenerative disease. Not one of us will be dying of natural causes. Wow. 100 years ago, less than 1 out of 4 of us was dying of a degenerative disease. In fact, it was actually about 0.3. So what's changed? What's changed is the information that you've been given, the information that you've been acted on. Because in the United States, you've got 3 classes of people under a capitalist system, under the dog-eat-dog monetary system that you got here. You got from birth to 18, you're pre-asset liability. That's true. That's your official classification. From 18 to 65, you're an asset because you're in the working force then. And from the 65, you're a total liability. What does every corporation try to do? Reduce its liabilities and increase its assets, right? Now then, they've nearly got the ratio dead right because you're the only country in the OECD group of countries, in the Western Hemisphere, if you like, the developed countries of the Western world, that 85% of you actually die within 5 years of retirement. Whoa. They've nearly got the equation perfect. In Switzerland, less than 30% die within first 5 years of retirement. There's one hell of a difference. Think about that. Yet they eat fat every day. But they haven't got driving banks. They actually spend 2 hours a day more than North Americans do of moving their bodies. So what we're going to do tonight, I've only got 15 minutes left. I'm going to take as many questions as I can tonight. I'll take 1 or 2 now. But what we're going to do tonight is show you that this thing here, the thing that you see in that mirror, that God-given body of yours, is the key. It's not out there somewhere. It's not some therapist. It's not some machine. It's not somebody's understanding of what's happening. It's not HAARP. It's not AIDS. It's this thing here that is the magic. And if you took all the knowledge you've already got and physicalized it, put it together, and I'm going to try to help you to do that tonight. And so you will empower this group of cells, this beautiful, incredible, God-given physicality, and embraced it and loved it, enjoyed it, and got it such a high vibratory rate, nothing but nothing out there will affect you. You will become the FM radio in an AM world. You get it? Your only hope of evolution, your only hope of moving through the next 15 years on Earth, even if it causes a bit of chaos, is to become such a high vibration that these low vibration realities will not adversely impact upon you, right? You've got to become the water and the steam. The water, yes, it does give it a cast, but it reconfigures again, doesn't it? Only the low vibratory ice got knocked to smithereens. Understand that simple concept. And the same thing about food. People say, what are you talking about electrically formulated nutritional supplements? What are you doing? It's quantum physics. Listen to this. If I've got 2 molecules of hydrogen in this hand, the most explosive gas in the universe, I've got 1 molecule of oxygen in this hand, and I put the 2 together, I should have, if chemistry worked, a big bang or a big fire. Right? 2 and 1 made 3? Didn't. 2 and 1 made 1. It made water. It's really, really difficult to blow up. Trust me, I've tried. And it puts out most fires. So what happened? What happened? The frequency of energy contained in this molecular structure and the frequency of energy contained in that molecular structure reconfigured, create a different electrical matrix. That separate different electrical matrix now interfaces with everything in this universe differently. It was not the sum of the 3 or the combined individual components. Had nothing to do with it. It created a separate electrical matrix. The protons and neutrons reconfigured their vibratory rate. Now then, ladies and gentlemen, that's God's work. That's how nature works. So if you take this herb that does this in the body, and herb B that does that in the body, and vitamin something or other that does that in the body, putting those 3 things together in a capsule and putting them into the body at the same time, those 3 things electrically are impossible to happen. I get my biggest frustration is when people come up, because by law you've got to list the ingredients on the package, right? And people come up and say, oh, our product's got this and our product's got that, but my body doesn't work with that. The ingredients, haven't I just showed you they've got nothing to do with it, the H2O? The individual ingredients have got nothing to do with the action. Give you an understanding, another way of looking at that. You girls all make lovely cakes. Some of you are good bakers, especially the old ones like my mum's age. Wonderful, wonderful bakers. Lovely big sponge cake. And you mix the ingredients from the top down, do you not? Now get that exact same cake mixture and start mixing the ingredients from the bottom up. Would your cake turn out very well? No. Different taste, it doesn't rise, all sorts of crazy things happen. Because that ingredients, what that list is a series of electrical formulations. You've just never thought of it in that terminology. But that's what had happened. You're mixing this component with this component and then leaving it over here. It reconfigures, and then you're mixing these 3 components, then you mix those 2 together. You're making 1 electrical matrix here, 1 electrical matrix here, and then you combine and made another electrical matrix here. Each individual electrical matrix to end up with what you wanted to end up with. Another way of looking at it that you'll find that really gets it. If you can imagine every molecule, every mineral, every vitamin, every component of food, the way nature puts it together, and nature puts all natural food together in the exact same electrical stacking, it's like a tune. Mary had a little lamb, a little lamb. Now that's, probably not when I sing it, but when anybody else sings it, it's probably fairly melodious. It's pleasant to hear, right? Your body can absorb that and take it and says, yes, that's wonderful, right? Now, if take those same notes, and each one of those notes represents a component of food, the way nature puts it, okay? A component of a plant or a component of a fruit or a component of meat, because they're all actually the same components stacked differently. Each note was the exact same one of those components. Now, mix up those notes and play those exact same notes to you all mixed up. It's unbelievably horrible. Just change about 3 of those notes and it's a horrible tune. And if you mix them all up higgledy-piggledy, you can't listen to that stuff. It's so, That's what you do when you change nature's electrical matrix. Your body can't recognize the tune. It's not harmonious to it, so therefore it's a toxin. Starting to get it now? Electrical formulation has never, ever been thought about ever before in the health field, whether it's from the pharmaceutical industry or the natural health industry. Electrical nutrition, electrical formulation, and nature's electrical matrix have never, or electrical science has never, ever been put into any high-tech supplements before this. We're talking probably, as Dr. Bowen in Switzerland said, the greatest advance ever in the natural health industry since its inception. We have never ever put quantum physics and electrical science into formulating anything we put into our body until you guys did it. So I stand here before you and say what you've got now is 20 years of research available to you. 20 years of quantum physics, of understanding what nature is, what life is. And for those of you who want to read Journey to Truth, you'll understand the process I went through because I was deadly honest in that, putting it out there. My passion is your aliveness. You deserve your outrageousness, girls. You deserve the fullness of life. You deserve to be sassy. You deserve every bit of yahoo that you can manifest into this world. You guys, in 1972, we wanted to measure how healthy we were keeping our national herd in New Zealand. So we us agriculturists know that the most accurate gauge of the health of the animals is the sperm count per milliliter of sperm in the bulls. And so we got the biggest bull proving scheme in the world. So we got all these bulls, we got their sperm count, and we calibrated and we called that the mean, the 100. In 1972, and we figured out we have to keep that within plus or minus 3% on every 2-year basis when we do a test again to make sure that we have got that health, that basic vibrancy, that basic component of our national herd to maintain the production. Because New Zealand is just one big farm. 70% of everything in New Zealand comes from agriculture exports. You know, if the animals get sick, oh boy, we got a big problem. And that's another thing, just before we carry on with that. In New Zealand farming, with the cows outside, the only way I pay my bills, the only way I buy the wife clothes, the only way I buy the kids shoes is those animals producing. I have never yet seen a sick cow make milk. Ever. They don't produce when they don't feel well. So the only way we survive and pay our bills and look after our families is to have healthy animals, right? In the human health field, the only way that entire pharmaceutical industry, that entire industry out there, all the hospitals, all the doctors, all the therapists, everybody makes any money is what? Have you sick? Oh my God, I think I come from the other end. I love Einstein when he says that problems cannot be changed with the level of thinking that created them. I think electrical nutrition is a different level of thinking. I'm probably the only agriculturist that has actually written a health book that's been published by a major publisher in New Zealand. I got a lady who called me up from London last week, just before I went to Canada, the week before. She said, I found your book in a bookshop in London. She said, thank you, thank you, thank you. It's getting out there, it's getting around the world. But it's profoundly powerful because it will give you the truth from that agricultural base. We've got 5 minutes left to go. I'm going to go back to that little story. Which story was that one? Sperm count, magic. Now then, as a natural health therapist with 20,000 clients, and 3/4 of those are women, and 3/4 of those women, when they come to me for their issues, tell me that they've got another big issue. Anybody got any idea what that big issue was? Yep. The old man can't get it up. I'm a frustrated woman. True story. You know, you girls really never stop, you know. But it's the old man who's got the issue. Why do you think in 5 years, no, nearly 6 years now, Viagra has passed the individual prescriptions for 50 years of antibiotic use? Why do you think Viagra in this country is an 80% higher prescription level than any other Western country, OECD country? So after in 1972, remember when the New Zealand Agriculture Department did our national bull sperm count, the health departments around the world said, oh, let's do this for our people. And America did it in 1973. Did 30,000 adult males from 18 to 45 and got their mean live sperm count. This is a true story. The figures are there. Go into the National Health Association. In 1999, the last time I looked up the figures, the sperm count for the adult male had dropped 53%. Not one of you guys out there are half the men your grandfathers were. Now do you see why Viagra has an 80% use rate in this country? If your sperm count in agriculture dropped 3% of our national bull, the red flag would go up. It's dropped over 53% in this country. Nobody's even telling you. Look at the population statistics. You white males and the white females have stopped breeding in this country. I get every week some person in this country, some woman comes to me in this country in their late 20s and say, please, please help me, I've heard about you, please help me, I can't get pregnant. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of them. You have stopped, lowered the life force, got so toxic that you can't even breed as a race anymore, as a society. That is a fact. If you don't think you've got something wrong, that you haven't, or you've listened to information that has been incorrect. I had a lady come to me in a clinic last week and I told her exactly what's going on in the body, and she said, well, that can't be right. I said, look in the mirror, girl. This is who you are. Look at what's happening to you. You come here knowing all these problems. That's why you come to me. And you're still holding on to the same thing that causes problems. If you're walking down a path and that path is leading you to a precipice, that you're going to crash and burn. Hell, it's not much use veering left or veering right, is it? It's just delay's inevitable. The only way you can put distance between that precipice and you is to turn 180 degrees around and walk exactly back the opposite way. So that means everything you've done in the last 10 years in your life, do the opposite. Right. Oh my God. You won't be amazed how few people can do that. If you are toxic, full of garbage, and if you don't change your diet, you don't understand what nutrition is and how you got to this degenerative low frequency stage, well, go away and die. But if you want to change that, if you want to do something about it, if you want to become enlightened, if you want to understand how God's body works, how this whole universe, everything you've been hearing here, can come back to you, that you can empower yourself and go above it, come and listen tonight, because we'll start that journey for you. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.